For ease, Dwayne's going to be in charge of the clicker, so I can change the slides. But I've done the slides in both English and Spanish. English is on this side, Spanish is on this side. They're identical slides with the appropriate translation. So, to start...
Mari.
Are we done? Today I want to talk about redevelopment. The history of where we've come from and where we're going. I've had the opportunity to talk to the owners yesterday, so I can speak of the facts as I know them. But I can't go into speculation because speculation just draws upon rumors. I've invited all the staff as well as the managers because the managers haven't heard either what I'm going to say. Part of it I think we have to understand is the redevelopment creates a sense of anxiety for hourly staff, union staff, for non-union staff, for managers, for me. Everyone is in this building, everyone in this room makes their living out of this building. And so I think it's important that we can openly communicate just the facts of redevelopment. I'm happy to take questions. I can't say I'll know the answers to your questions because there's still a lot in the air about the redevelopment. So with that, first slide. Sunstone Hotel sold the hotel here to Next Century Associates in June 1, 2008. June 1, 2008, our current ownership, Next Century Associates, purchased the hotel. Okay? Right? Next Century Associates, the owner, maintained Hyatt as the operator of the hotel. Many of you were here when it was a Westin. Sunstone changed it to a Hyatt. When Next Century bought the hotel, they kept it as a Hyatt. To clarify, the building and the land are owned by Next Century, run by Hyatt. The Equinox Sporting Club, the building and the land is owned by Next Century, managed by Equinox. So Hyatt is a management company working for the owners. Okay? Next Century purchased the land in 2008 and then had the opportunity, or an opportunity came upon them about potential redevelopment, and they love that opportunity. So they purchased it with the intent to redevelop the land. They filed an EIR in July of 2011. I started here in June 20th, 2011. It was one of the first pieces of paper I'd seen. An EIR is an environmental impact review. Go back. The EIR did not pass at first. It met with objection. The historical preservation of Century Plaza was discussed. They did an analysis of traffic counts and patterns of what a new development would cause the area. So if you've ever noticed on the way to Equinox in the morning, there were always folks in the lobby counting number of guests that walked to Equinox, number of cars that came in, number of cars that left the hotel and Equinox to do a complete traffic study of the land. And then finally, the weather and the wind patterns were studied so they could get an idea of what the environmental change would be by adding potentially new buildings. An example that I think we can all relate to is when the MGM building went up. From what I understand, it changed the way the sun hits the pool deck. So half the day, you know, it's nice and hot and sunny. By 2:30, 3 o'clock, the shade comes in, and it changed the way the pool deck was managed. The people that live in the area, that have homes, condominiums, also were concerned if you build new buildings again, what does it do to the wind flow from the cool breeze from the ocean? How is this going to affect their ability to live and enjoy the place that they purchased? So that was part of the study that they had to go back to after the first EIR. Okay? This time last year, I was new, but I told you that the hotel wasn't closing. I wouldn't have transferred here with my family to make a living here to close the hotel. I think I was pretty open to share with everyone that I came here and I transferred here from the Hyatt La Jolla because frankly, my wife had breast cancer, and she needed to be able to keep the same doctors that she had from San Diego, so this was a perfect move for me. But under no circumstances did I have was the intention that we were ever going to close the hotel. I made the pitch to the ownership that given that, we need some renovations, one in the cantina, and secondly in the ballroom. We needed to have a new place to sell. So successfully last year, we renovated the cantina, we renovated the ballroom, and we spent about $2.5 million enhancing the hotel. Two big things we're working on now are, especially in housekeeping, you realize the guest room films. A lot of people walk through the glass. So they're putting film on the glass now. I think the project's going to start Thursday. So that's a safety piece for the folks. And there's filming, so it's a $400,000 project. It'll take us about 2 months to get done. And then the second process is going to be all the money we spent on the backyard. Between the lighting, the landscaping, we've made about $200,000 of improvements, and you'll see that there's going to be permanent gas lines installed in X-Bar, lobby bar, and we just got finished working on the breeze patio. So these are all things that the ownership continues to work on to make the current facility better. Okay? Since 2011, we've also hired new staff. Approximately 31 new employees and 25 new managers. Again, 25 new managers and the 31 new employees didn't come here to lose their careers. They came here to advance their careers and have a new experience. Many of the managers were sales managers because in order to make our financial objection, we had to sell more groups and we had to get more business in the building. So we've hired plenty of people. Thank you. Is that working out? Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
So we had to hire new staff to be able to get more revenue. So we hired, between career progression, 25 new managers, 31 new staff members. Okay? Go ahead. A new EIR was drafted on May 21st, 2012. And then again, the hotel was rumored to close very shortly. On July 18th, as everyone knows, the ownership, Next Century Associates, presented their plans to the city, and the plans met with no objections. So here's where it gets tricky. Okay? The next scheduled hearing for the EIR is August 23rd, 2012. So it's about a month away. The city will take its next step in hearing the plans of what the development's going to entail. Once all of the plans are approved and the funding is secured, then we can have solid discussions about what's going to happen with the operation of the hotel. Then we'll have the discussions. Okay? Unite Here. The ownership has been in discussions with the leadership of Unite Here. All of you know that. It's no secret. The discussions involve several factors, but the intent is to find a fair way to compensate everyone. The discussions include severance based on longevity, health and welfare benefits, and past wage increases. Those have been the topics of discussion between the ownership and Unite Here. Hyatt, because we're a management company, has not participated in these discussions. So I asked the owners yesterday, I need you to bring me up to speed. But there is no agreement, but they are working very much in everyone's favor to make things fair. Nothing is finalized, and I think the key is the goal is to be fair. Right? Given everything we know, there is no timetable established. All I know is that it will take some time to put together all these pieces of the puzzle for redevelopment. There is no timetable for closure. When it is established, we will give everyone plenty of time to
openly talk about the renovation. We at the hotel, the sales team and I, are very much involved in trying to book more business in the hotel and keep the hotel busy. Most of you saw in the last few days, the national sales force was here from Washington. It's 20 people. We spent a lot of money bringing those folks here so they could see the new facility, they could see the new ballroom, so that we can continue to sell what we have. We're doing that because there is no imminent date for closure. In summary, we will continue to let you know the facts behind redevelopment. I believe it is everyone's goal, Hyatt, Unite here, as well as the other unions represented in the building, and non-union and management, as well as the ownership, to be fair and to take care of you. This will not be like Bel Air, and I know that's a concern. When you make your living in a building and you've committed a lot of your adult lives to a facility, fair is the way to be. So the ownership has worked with Unite here. I wish they could be in the room to hear me, because I think in this particular case, we are all on the same page that we want to take care of the staff, the ownership, Hyatt, and the unions. Now I'll take some questions. But understand, I only can answer what I know factually. If I don't know it factually, I don't want to spread things that aren't necessarily true. The deal between the union and ownership happens when people sign a piece of paper. Before that, it's speculation. But I think you bear in mind the intent of the ownership, the intent of Hyatt, and the intent of the union is that they want fair treatment of the employees. I feel like a lot of you are like my family. Again, I make my living here. I also live here. So in the case of closure, I lose my house too. So I think it's important that we're transparent in how we talk, but not to get so overly anxious that it hurts our day-to-day operations. And in the same way, I think it really puts things in perspective and to appreciate what you have. I know I've looked at it and said, boy, I've had 26 years with I've had a great career. It ain't ending here. I like what I do. And I think all of you can say the same thing. So I think we appreciate what we have, but understand it's everyone's intentions to work together to be fair to all of you.
Yes. To your knowledge, has Next Century secured funding yet, or do you know?
I have not been made aware of any type of funding agreement whatsoever. I should add, if you want to write this down, it's called newcenturyplaza.com, and it's a website. It's a website that's been created by the ownership to show you the green impact, what the buildings can look like, how many condominiums, because it's a condominium projects, two of the buildings. But I don't believe I don't know of any funding.
So is there any timetable at all as to, since they don't even have the money, is there any guess? I mean, it's all now it's speculation. Okay, when this thing will begin, since they don't even have the money.
There is no start date. They're still putting together all the pieces of the puzzle. A big component of putting those pieces to the puzzle together are to assure that the people that have spent 30 and 40 years here in the building, or 30 years with Hyatt, to be fair. So they want to address that now. That's why the ownership is engaged with Unite here, so that they can have a course of action as steps necessitate.
I would like to know, like people, like union say one thing and you guys say another thing. We want to say thank you to you because you bring information to us, but the ladies are worried what's going to happen to us about they're going to.
Everyone in this room is worried. Everybody's worried, but the whole point is that we only can manage what we know. Everything I've told you is what I know.
Because they said they're going to offer $750 to package. The people have, let's say, only 500. We wanna know the truth.
I know that the ownership has discussed with the union appropriate severance packages. But it's more complicated than that, because if maybe the building never closes during renovation, maybe they try to renovate in and around the building being open. There's so many different options that I think they're trying to discuss a fair way that everybody can maintain their living wage and maintain their wages and benefits and make it right by everybody.
And if they doing something, with the owner and the union, we wanna know, because, union, they did a meeting just for Saturday. We working Monday to Friday, we don't know what's going on. That's why we want information for the
I think, I don't want to speak for the union, but I think all the parties involved, the union, the Hyatt, and the ownership, want to do what's fair for you.
Yes.
And I think that's without question. So the dollar amounts that I've heard rumored to, I can't say that that's true because I haven't been in those conversations.
Yeah, because we working very hard. We want to know everything, what they want to offer package, they want to offer. So the people who don't know, we don't know what's going on.
I believe at the appropriate time, it will be fair. I mean, I'm going to fight for fairness for everybody. Because there's more than just Unite here, it's fairness for the entire hotel. And I'm not in those conversations yet, but I know the owners want to be fair, and I believe Unite here wants to make sure that all of you are happy.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say I'm all for change with my company, as long as it helps us progress in life. But Local 11 and a lot of these ladies in the room want us to believe that once they start building these towers and everything, that they're going to start firing us because we're low seniority. And I just feel like, why would they start with low seniority? I mean, why do anybody have to be fired if we're just expanding with the company? You know what I mean? But here, they push it in our face so much on a daily basis that if we don't help fight for this, with this Local 11 want us to fight for, we're going to be fighting. And I just feel like, why would we be fired when we're expanding? The company is moving forward, so why would people have to be fired?
A couple good points there. In any type of redevelopment or building, the noise level is definitely. So there's a point that, if you're going to build new footers into the ground, it's going to cause disruption. That it changes the way the business is done, and during that time period, there's not as much work. I do believe that the union and Hyatt and the ownership are on the same page to take care of everyone. How that comes to fruition, I don't know yet. But I think everyone's heart's in the right direction. That's why I say I wish they were in the room to some degree, because I don't think what I'm saying they expect me to say. I think everyone wants to take care of you, and you, and you, and me, and you. Everybody makes a living here. And I think the intent is to be fair for everyone.
I just feel like the rumors and the speculation, it makes it much harder for anything that's really going on. And I just feel like the information that they have, a lot of people sit up in here and say, oh, they don't know, and thank you for telling us, but they push every day like they already know what's going on.
I think
like
they have some information. I haven't been at the meetings, but I believe they have information about what the discussions have been. I don't have information as to what the discussions have been, because I know there were a series of meetings. I wasn't there. I'm putting this on tape so they can sit in the back halls later and watch what I said. But the intent is, I do believe they're working, and we're working, and the ownership supports fairness.
Mr. Scott, regarding that, I think it would be comforting if we were told in advance, to make my point, when the Jaffe's renovated initially, this used to be the Cafe Plaza. Before there was Breeze. Excuse me. When the Jaffe's renovated, that's who the owners were, from whom the Sunstone bought the property. They renovated behind walls, behind which everything was working. The entire hotel was still operational. There was room service, there was housekeeping, there was everything. There was the front desk. Everything was working while everything was renovated behind those walls. There was a little dust, but I think it would be comforting for everyone if they decided to do that again. Then it would be less stress. Are we going to close? Are we going to lose? They would gain by it by having an operation still ongoing, revenue coming in, and more people working while all this stuff was happening and being renovated. I think that's what people would really like to hear.
But we don't know. By the time that the redevelopment takes place, we will have ample opportunity to explain what the redevelopment entails. Right now, that's still being defined. It is more significant than a hotel renovation because you're adding 2 buildings. But the timing of it, you know, it's, if you think of all the groups that we have on the books, we have to make those phone calls. All the weddings that we have booked, all the conventions that we have to buy booked. Once we know for sure, and it's an absolute, this is when we're gonna start, we'll have a meeting just like this and say, here's the plan. Here's how I know it. But I only can talk about what I know firsthand. And I think, you know, the scope of the work is more than what's in the past. And I don't know what the past was, but when you're building 2 buildings, it's pretty significant. But I think we're gonna look further out than I think people imagine, because we have a lot of contracts out there. We have a lot of agreements with people to host their bar mitzvahs and weddings and conventions and groups. That all of that has to be done in time. I just don't believe now's the time yet. Yes, ma'am.
Are you gonna ever sign a contract? My God.
It is my hope that through this discussions between the ownership and United Here, that that's not as far away as you might think. I'm hopeful
3 years is too
for
long.
it creates anxiety
Yes.
that isn't necessarily in anyone's best interest. But I understand that people fight for other people's rights, and that's how the United States was built. But I think again, I think we all make our living out of the building, and I think everyone wants to be treated fair, and I know that's what all the key parties want to provide is a fair outcome. And hopefully that means a contract and labor peace, and you know, we have a little bit more fun.
Do your salary stay the same, and your rent and stuff going up? My God, you're gonna be outdoors pretty soon.
It is part of the discussions I know with the ownership right now, and Hyatt, and is to see how we can make people whole again. That's part of the discussion.
Mr. Scott, for many times you say the hotel is no close. Then in the renovation time, are you closed for that time, or we have a job? We can come to work by seniority, of course.
I think first the scope of work has to be defined. Once you know what you're going to build, then you figure out how you're going to build it. They're still working on what they're going to build.
¿Me lo puede decir lo que él está diciendo, señora Sara, por
Dice
favor?
que todavía depende de qué es lo que se va a hacer, lo que se vaya a aprobar. Todavía no saben qué es lo que va a pasar.
And then, are you not sure you close or no close? Because
Not sure.
I read over there in Spanish, you say when it's clausura, you say
Sure. When we have
clausura quiere decir cerrar.
Sí, cuando sepamos de por seguro que se va a cerrar, vamos a casar. Esto todavía no sabemos nada.
when all the plans are approved, we can share exactly what was approved. I don't know what was approved. And the EIR document, frankly, was 1,200 pages. I didn't read it. It's 1,200 pages. Being honest. Yes, ma'am.
Also, this week, that the owners approved our past wages and increase, but was told Hyatt itself was holding it up.
I wasn't at those conversations or as part of that. I know everyone's negotiating to try to be fair,
Yeah.
but I don't know all the details.
Yeah, they said, the owners said, go ahead. And the union is saying Hyatt's holding it up.
I think there's two issues, one a local development issue and one a Hyatt national issue, but somehow they have crossover pieces. My focus is on you.
I mean, you keep saying the focus is on us, but all I keep hearing in this room is seniority. So if you ain't seniority, you fired when this renovation happens. That's what I'm hearing at this point. And I just think that that is unfair. You know, everybody always push seniority, push seniority. I feel like, you know, you work here, you're a part of the company too, whether you seniority or not. You know what I mean? So it shouldn't just apply to you that you low seniority, you're gonna be fired. It should be a fact that whoever is chosen should be fired, if that's what's gonna happen when they renovate. But if they close, nobody's working.
But seniority is how the established practice of scheduling is. Again, it's a matter of fairness. there are some people that might say, you know, I'd just like to take my severance and retire, and they're happy with that. Because we don't know a timeline, it's really, you can't define it. It's the uncertainty that makes folks antsy. I had to have the same conversation with my wife, because she's heard all the rumors. And, you know, at the end, we found peace in knowing that I know what I know, and I told her she could sit in the room, and she'd hear the same thing. And that's, again, why I brought the managers in with the staff, so that everyone heard it at the same time. So it's the same message one time, or in this case, 3 times. Pete, you have a question?
Well, you kind of answered part of my question. My main question was, what are the, well, that they're still looking at the idea of doing a partial shutdown of the building when they do the renovation. I mean, I've been through this before with other places, and when somebody takes a building and either they demolish it or they renovate and build something else, there's going to come a point where the noise factor is definitely going to cut into the business, and then, you know, there's going to end up some people are going to end up losing a job in the process, even if they do a partial shutdown. But that's the thing. I think what everybody's concerned is, are they going to do a partial or a complete shutdown? Like you said, you really don't know until there are plans on what they're going to build.
Once everything gets approved, as you know, they just begin the construction meetings to say, here's what we're going to build, and it's an elaborate, you know, you hire construction management, you hire project management, and then you try to bring up the scope of work. It might be that once we get everything signed, dotted, that we have a meeting once a month to say, here's where we are. But at this point, anything I say would just be speculation, and I don't want to do that.
How many months or years was the staff for?
No idea.
About 4 years?
I'm going to be with you, I know. But hopefully this puts some people, the minds at ease. The EIR met without objection. The owners are happy that, you know, their dream, you know, is moving in the right direction. But I think the takeaways are, the union supports you, Hyatt supports you, the ownership supports you, and we're going to be as fair as we can be to everybody.
Can you get dissuaded from doing this, because the building next door hasn't even sold 10%. So, I mean, it doesn't make, I'm just a waiter, he's a smarter man than me. So why is he building 2 condo buildings, and additionally 4 floors of condos, when there's a big pit over there across northeast over there, corner, that hasn't been built? This building over here where the tower used to stand, you know, is at the most 15% sold. I think Andy Spellman has the top 2 floors for 44 million. That doesn't make logical sense to me. Like I said, he's smarter than me. How is he going to sell us 2 buildings of condos and 4 floors when none of them haven't been sold? I'd like to meet with him there personally myself.
I'm sure you two have a very interesting conversation. But again, we don't really, there's no timetable established right now.
I just wanted to say that.
My question goes along with what he just said. Those condos next door are not selling, so we can build two more towers in the back. So once we spend all this money, our company spends all this money to build these towers, and then they don't sell, then they can fire half of their staff. I mean, then what happens?
But understand, it's not, it was perfect when you said our company. Hyatt is a management company that now works for the ownership. The ownership is making the investment, and they have to go get investors to make the investment. It's a whole process. It's like getting a mortgage for your home. You might want to renovate the kitchen. 1, you got to buy the home. 2, you got to get a loan, and then you got to have plans, and then you got to have somebody do the plans. That's why I say there is no timetable out front. But for those of you that do work under a union contract, I think it's important that everyone knows, even the non-union folks and the manager, the intent is fair. We're going to be fair.
For us, for our.
Everyone,
for our,
everyone.
You know, we need anything they're gonna do, a change it for us, you know, coming for us.
Fair
Because
for
you can
everybody.
see that their comment is growing, they don't care us.
They do care. I mean, everyone cares to make sure that people, the intent is fair. But thank you, everybody. I hope that helps. I appreciate it.